Welcome back to the Insurance Leadership Podcast. In today's episode, we have Tom Demmer with Renaissance Life here with us. He is going to be hitting on a topic that I love talking about, and that's distribution. How to get plans, rates, carriers on different platforms and exchanges across the country. He's got 37 years of experience, and you do not want to miss this episode. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the show. Tom, thank you again for being on the show today, buddy. I greatly appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Well, look, to give everyone listening right now kind of an overview, why don't you tell a little bit about your background, what got you into the industry, tell a little bit about family, wife, kids, all that fun stuff, just so everybody knows a little more about you.
Wow. All right. Well, I have two grown kids, both gainfully employed.
Nice.
So I think knock on wood, I've done my job. Living now in Salt Lake City. We used to live in Michigan for 35 years. And since we were empty nested, wanted to kind of roam the United States a little bit, check things out. So I've been in the industry now for, 37 years. First with Delta Dental of Michigan, one of the larger Delta plans in the system. And then we did this startup called Renaissance. And even though we're Renaissance Life and Health, for a long time, we're just dental and vision. And we focus on ancillary. And that's my background. That's where I started from. Right. Did really well in the 37 years. Sold everything from small group up to large Fortune 500 companies. And then in the early 2000s, Renaissance started. So I made this leap of faith and got in the individual market, which was completely new.
That's right.
Yeah. And it was an exciting time. A lot of people looked at me and they thought, you're nuts. Individual. Yeah. And I go, I got a gut feeling that this thing's going to turn.
David White always said that too. People were like, what are you selling one dental plan at a time? It's like $2 commission or something. And he was like, yeah, but you're going to sell 1,000 of it. And that was always his mindset.
I love David's analogy on that.
Yeah.
He is spot on.
That's it.
It took me years to figure that out.
That's
but
right.
He was right.
That's right. So look, give us a little overview on Renaissance then, what all Renaissance does now, products, and then probably a little bit more into your role now with Renaissance and what you're doing there.
Sure. So Renaissance has been around since maybe the late 90s, but really we started in the early 2000s. Yep. Dental vision. We focused on individual and small group. We've kind of expanded that small group up to like mid-size groups, like 100 to 500 type of sweet spot, right? Yep. But like half of the house is still strictly individual, and that's what I help do business development for. In the beginning, it was just me.
That's right.
And I thought they really took this whole individual thing seriously, going, here, you're the individual guy, it's just you. Yeah. And it was that time that I go, I don't have a sales staff. Who's going to help me market my material? Mm-hmm. And I go, distribution. I got to start talking with distribution platforms. People who, one stop that talks and sells to many. Yep. That's going to be our ticket. Yep. And that's proven well for us ever since. We started with dental. We expanded into vision. We're now kind of dabbling in this dental vision health kind of thing for the senior markets. Mm-hmm. We do have life and disability now, but it's strictly on the group side. And maybe somewhere down the line, we can get that to come over to the individual.
That's right. I love it, man. I love what you're doing there. And I told the guys here that I was most excited about having you on the podcast while we're here, because we're also looking at doing some more stuff with distribution channels from platforms and other things. We've done some over the years, but it's been more isolated situations. And so I was asking the questions I was kind of laying out for today were questions that I actually have. And I was like, this is going to be great. Tom's going to give me a little mentor session today. And so every platform seems to be different, right? Like they're whether it's the private or public, or it's one wants to do their own administration, another one wants to do any administration. It can vary. It seems like every single deal. How do you look at that? How do you start deciphering when you go into these different platforms and distribution channels? What does kind of your thought process look like when you're going in, I guess?
I shut up and I listen. That's the key. And you're spot on. If you've seen one platform, you've seen one platform. Every one of them is different. Yep. Some of them might just have like minor tweaks, yep, but some might be on total ends of the spectrum. Yep. right? You might have a technology savvy company with a bunch of tech guys who know everything about digital, but they know nothing about product. And then vice versa. You might know somebody who knows everything about product, wants to distribute it, but has no technology background. So you have to be, you got to be so super flexible. And you just have to know, okay, my skill set or my back room can fit. It might not fit A to Z, but maybe it fits A through W, right? And then you just have to go and talk with that platform and ensure that it can fit in that spectrum. And then you start plugging and playing, right?
Yep. What is your due diligence? Obviously you listen, but what does your due diligence, your questions look like when you're there to get them talking so that you're knowing the right stuff to know on the back end, what you need to plug, what you need to pull, all that type stuff. What does some of that look like?
Sometimes it's a long drawn out process.
I'm sure.
Sometimes it's a quick phone call, which is crazy.
Yeah.
You just get on these calls, and COVID, was such a kind of change in the marketplace on selling.
Yeah.
Suddenly you were doing things on Zoom and phone calls, but sometimes you just get the call. Hey, I've got this. I'm going to start this program. I need product. I need ancillary. What do you have? And then it's the due diligence too. It's like, who are you going to market to? How are you going to do it? And then just listen and then figure it out. Because I always I have this analogy that I have this quiver full of arrows on my back, and I'm going to pull that specific arrow out for that specific solution, right? And just listening in through them, figuring out where they're going to market, what product they're going to need, price points. Yep. That whole thing. Are they going after a low-income demographic? Are they going into a high-income demographic? Great, I got product for each one of those scenarios, right? So it's sometimes it could be a lot. Like I said, sometimes it could be a long process. Sometimes it could be like, boom, yeah, we got that. Let's do it.
Have you found any similarities between the high-producing platforms versus low-producing platforms? Anything that, hey, someone comes to you like, oh, we're going to write all this business, and then they don't write any business. And then the guy says, hey, we're going to come in, we're going to write a lot of business, and they write a ton of business, right? Have you found any similarities in those things? It's kind of like, hey, watch out for this type stuff.
There's no warning sign at the beginning. You don't know. You could sit there and you could work on it for months. You finally plug it in, and it's like laying pipe, right? And then suddenly you set all the pipe up and you turn on the spigot, or they turn on the spigot, and you're just sitting there waiting. And then finally maybe something comes dripping in, a little trickle, right? It's a little trickle and you're going, oh, bummer. All right. Didn't see that coming.
That's right.
Or I didn't see that coming, and it's suddenly like, I'm going to need a bigger pipe.
That's right.
There's so much coming in.
That's right. Well, so in those type situations, when you're kind of coming back to your team, right? Because you obviously have stuff to do. It's not just, hey, here's the concept. Great, they're sold on and it's done, right? There's all the different pieces, whether it's maybe administrative agreements that have to be done, or there's getting the rates over, and maybe it's a file, or maybe it's just a shelf rate, or what. There's all those different pieces. When you have had something that turned out to be a dud, right? And it just dripped and dripped and dripped and dripped way longer than everyone expected, and it never came flowing out. And we've had those. I'm speaking from our experience here because I've seen that. What do you do the next time you come with the platform to try to keep your team from getting negative? Do you know what I'm saying? You're laughing something. Yeah. Keeping people from getting negative and kind of keeping that momentum going. Hey guys, this is different than the last one. This one's going to be because of this. What's your suggestions and thoughts on that, and how have you handled it?
Sometimes it's like an athletic coach, a sports coach. You prepare for the game. Yeah. You think you got all your ducks in a row, and you lost. Whether it was a blowout or you lost by like 1 point, you gotta get the team together and say, that was yesterday, right? And that platform was yesterday. This is a new platform. You could do the whole lessons learned thing, and it does. I mean, people will go, what did you learn from that last fiasco, right? It's like, all right, well, I don't know, because sometimes it's like you don't see it coming.
That's right.
Or it could be just like a bad marketing campaign from that distribution partner, right? And that just didn't hit the right people. And sometimes they'll retool and reload, and maybe they will be successful later down the road, like another iteration.
That's right.
But yeah, with the team, it's all about the next game.
That's right.
Here's the next platform.
That's right.
Let's focus on that. And, God willing, we're gonna hit a home run this time.
When you're bringing something back, how do you, on the initial one, not after a dud, but let's just say you're taking it back, you've got XYZ company you just met with, you figured out exactly what they need, you're taking it all back to your team, and you're trying to get everyone fired up about this. Well, not after a dud, but just, hey, this is what it is. What does that process look like when you take it back, circling everyone from kind of like a leadership perspective? You're trying to get everyone on the same page moving forward. What does that look like for you? Are you getting meetings with your teams on a weekly basis? Are you meeting with them on a monthly basis? What's kind of your normal setup look like when you're kind of moving a deal down the road?
Yeah, sometimes people say that the hardest sell is not the external sell with a client, it's the internal sell, right? It's getting the team sold that we're going to actually be able to accomplish that.
We're actually going to get something for doing this.
Right. That's right. And it's part, like I told you about the coach part, and the other part's cheerleader.
That's right.
Right? It's just getting everybody geeked up, going, let's get excited about this. Let's get the team together. Back in the old days, when we first started, we were a small group. A dozen employees, right? Yeah. So it was easy to get the team together to get them excited. Now we're like over 100, pushing 200 employees. We have staff that reports to staff. And now it's like, oh my gosh, it's like now you got to get everybody herded together and talking and making sure that they understand it's not just the small picture of what they're doing, but the whole big picture on the whole project. And that's where Renaissance has kind of morphed into, we understood that. And not just implementation teams, but we have project officers now that actually will help take that new platform sale, so to speak, and help run it through the system.
See it through the process.
Yes. And that is, I tell you what, we are learning every day from that. And it touches every department. We will talk to every department that project will touch and making sure that they're on all the calls and they're held responsible and they have deliverable due dates. That's good. And, just so we can make sure that we get to that goal line.
That was a great leadership idea or executive decision there to get everyone on that same track. Were y'all butting heads and dropping balls? Is that kind of what got you to that point? I mean, it's just fair.
Yeah. It just got to be so much, right? So much to do. And things are starting to fall through the cracks.
Oh, I believe.
And project officers are, oh my gosh, they go down to the detail, right? So they are always making sure that everything's held accountable.
What does that accountability look like when they're trying to check with them on detail? Is it one manager who's talking with the 5 different departments and they're all reporting back to them and then making sure those people are on the calls with your external? Is it something along those lines?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much. There's not a ton of people, but they're just the key individuals. Like you said, like the managers involved, right? Managers or directors, levels, the folks who are actually doing like the file feed transfer, the IT guys who are actually doing the work.
That's right.
We want to make sure that they're on the call so they're listening in and they know exactly what's going on with the whole scope of the project.
Because in the scope of a project, we're talking about, starting from the beginning, just thinking in my head, we're talking about administrative agreements. We're talking about how do you need the files, how do you get the brochures, how do you, the file feed transfers and API transfer. There's so many different little pieces, and like you said, can vary from each thing. And then there's the contract, and we forgot to do this. How's this documentation?
So many times it's like, right. Did anybody talk to legal? No, nobody talked. Okay, I'll pick up the phone. Right. I'll call legal.
That's right? Exactly right.
Yeah.
No, and it's all those different pieces that come together. I love that, and I think y'all's leadership team did a great job kind of pulling all that together to make sure y'all did that. What would you say, if you had to say something your leadership team has done extremely well, right? Maybe even a chance of you to brag about the leadership team. What's something that you guys do great and excellence from that standpoint?
Yeah, that's a great segue because not only did they help see the whole scope of having a project officer involved now, but also being involved.
Yes.
Our senior leadership, when it comes to like our individual platform partners, and keep in mind, we're talking, we don't know if it's going to be a couple hundred people,
that's right,
a couple thousand, 10,000 people, so those big numbers get people's attention and it gets our senior leadership attention as well. And when I'm vetting these new prospects and these new opportunities, they're on calls. they're getting updates during the sales process. So they don't just see it once we bring it in. They know what we're out there tracking. Yeah. Like, how's that going? And is there anything that we need to do internally? So they're already getting like our ducks in a row before we even hit implementation.
So they're engaged basically.
They're engaged. They have our back, and they are making sure that everybody's held accountable too, that are going to be part of that new project.
That's great.
Yep.
All right, so we're here at the ICMG conference, right? And we're both of us probably have 20 to 30 meetings over the next, 2 days. Everybody, all the different things going on.
Right.
What are you most excited about for 2024 in the insurance industry?
Wow. All right. So a lot of the things, and I love ICMG because it's not only just new business, but it's also existing business.
That's right.
Morgan White Group, longtime partner.
That's right.
It gives us a great time to
catch up.
Yeah, to catch up, meet face to face, which is really lacking a lot nowadays.
Right.
Got to get back on the road and see everybody.
That's exactly right.
Some of the things that we're excited about, especially as we enter 24, is beefing up our senior products, especially for Medicare sales.
Yep.
Ancillary is always a good add-on. I talk a lot about the healthcare Happy Meal. Everybody comes in looking for the burger, but do you want the biggie fry or the small fry?
That's right.
I love that Happy Meal analogy because everybody loves a Happy Meal. They don't just go in for the burger; they want everything that goes with it. Dental, vision.
That's right.
Maybe
load the card up.
Yeah. So we've got that going. The gig economy continues to chug along as a potential marketplace. It's been strong for us over the years. And now this whole ICHRA thing is really bubbling up, and we're seeing more and more platforms just picking up the phone and calling us going, hey, we have an ICHRA platform, or we're going to start one. We really need some individual ancillary. Do you have something that could fit it? And we're morphing some of our individual products now to meet that need. So I'm really excited about that as well.
I agree with you on that. We've started getting some of those same type phone calls, and they're popping up all over the place. Yeah. And I think that's pretty. All right. So last question, Tom, for you I got today. Thinking from a leadership standpoint, what has been the biggest leadership lesson you learned that's maybe impacted you the most, or maybe your favorite leadership quote, or a principle that you tried to lead others by?
Wow.
And I put you on the spot there. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. God, in 37 years, the first one I've always heard about, and that's helped into sales. It won't matter in 100 years.
That's true.
You got to just let some of that bad baggage go.
That's good.
And focus on what you're going to do for me in the sales and business development on the next sale. Let it go, learn from your lesson. What did you take away from that? And how can you become a better either sales manager or just person in general, right?
Yep.
And just take that into the next coming year.
Oh, I love it. Dave Ramsey has something along those lines. He says, if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't spend more than 5 minutes worried about it.
There you go.
And that's it. Just dropping it behind, leaving it, and go on from there. So, Well, Tom, thank you so much for being on. This has been a blessing to me as well, just kind of hearing your experience on there. So thank you for being here. And for those listening in on the show today, thank you for listening in. And remember, a good plan today is better than a great plan months from now. Thank you for joining in.